Hello, Ed Hartley here, and I'm doing my presentation on Web 2.0 and cloud computing for the System Support Project class, CTS 289. So, what is Web 2.0? Well, Dictionary.com defines Web 2.0 as the second generation in the development of the World Wide Web, conceived as a combination of concepts, trends, and technologies. The focus on user collaboration, sharing of user-generated content, and social networking. So basically, the internet hasn't really changed itself. It's still the same old internet. But what has changed is the way that we interact with sites such as blogs, social media, and other applications that allow content creators and users to interact with each other. For example, Facebook, MySpace, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, and blogs. The difference between Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 is that instead of the user being talked to, they are now able and invited to engage in a conversation by the creator, the content creator. Cloud computing. Merriam-Webster defines cloud computing as the practice of storing regularly used computer data on multiple servers that can be accessed through the internet. Cloud computing is a lot more complicated than that, though. Without cloud computing, a lot of things that we're used to on the internet would not exist, at least in the capacity that they do now. Any of the content you upload or collaborate on is stored on the cloud in some shape or form. In the old days, if you wanted to have a website, you had to have a physical server to host your website, sitting somewhere, most likely in the same location where you worked on your website. If your site blew up, then you'd have to go get more server capacity to accommodate the extra traffic. Either that or your site would just flat out crash. Now, times have changed. You find a site hosting service and you pay them to host your site. And if your site blows up, it can expand to accommodate the extra traffic. And now through a network of servers that are interconnected to different locations or server farms. This slide illustrates some of the familiar cloud applications that you probably know of. Just to name a few here: Google+, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube. These are all applications or websites that are stored on the cloud. There are three different types of cloud computing structures. One is a private cloud. Next type is public cloud. And the third is the hybrid cloud. Private cloud is a pool or a cluster of servers that an entity owns or rents exclusively, that is only used for their own cloud. Where access is restricted, the pool or cluster of servers probably reside on the premises or another facility that the entity owns. The advantages of a private cloud: you know where your data is stored, or if there's any issues, you can go physically see it and say, yes, this server right here is the one where this data is being stored. You have full control of your data to include security. There's no high monthly maintenance fees to host your data. There's another advantage. Now, disadvantages of private cloud: if you have a natural disaster that could eliminate your data, It's like a fire, hurricane, which we have a lot of in North Carolina, flooding, anything like that. If you have it all stored in one local facility and something happens to that facility, your website or your service is going to go down. It's not very easily scalable. Like I was mentioning earlier, if your website blows up or your service blows up and a lot of people take interest into it and you need more data to be handled or more traffic to be handled, it's a little bit harder to go out and have to buy another hard drive or another server to handle the extra capacity. Cost, on the front end, it can be expensive having to buy the server and the equipment and maintain the space to store your server and equipment, and then plus you got to hire somebody to run it for you if you don't know how to do it yourself. Okay, the public cloud is a pool or a cluster of servers from a hosting company, each customer having their own data share. These servers are shared amongst their customers. This pool or cluster of computers may also reside in more than one location. Advantages of a public cloud is that clusters or pools are in different locations, like data server farms and stuff like that. If one goes down, another location can pick up the slack and keep your data available. There's no need to back up your services because it is maintained by the hosting company, and they keep 2 or 3 backups or keep your data on 2 or 3 different servers in 2 or 3 different locations. It is easily scalable. If, like I said before, if your website blows up and you need to handle more traffic, when you're going through a hosting service, a lot of them can handle the extra traffic. Physical security at a public cloud facility or a server farm is usually very stringent with good security practices in place. Also, if you do not create space on premises for data storage, you don't need to maintain a server room. Also, I found a website that I'm going to post on the last page of this presentation. There's a link to a Microsoft Cloud server farm. There's a pretty interesting video that shows the inside of Microsoft Data Center and illustrates the various measures that they take to ensure the CIA for data, which I'll go through later what the CIA is. Disadvantages of public cloud: you do not have the physical location for the server. You cannot go check on or maintain your data. You don't have full control of your data. Cost of hosting can be expensive. There are security concerns due to hacking and data breaches and stuff. You do not have full control over the hosting company's security measures. If anything ever happens to your cloud hosting company, say they go bankrupt, you could lose access to your stored data and incur downtime trying to rebuild the data and getting it back on the cloud. Security risks: since your data is on the internet, that in itself is a vulnerability. You need to access your internet. You need to access the internet to access your data, which there's always a risk of data intrusions and attacks. And last but not least, hybrid cloud. This is a mixture of both public and private clouds, partially under your own control and partially under the control of a hosting company. There you'll have, in this situation, you have a server on your own premises, and you're already subscribed and have all your data uploaded through a hosting company also. So you get the best of both worlds with that. You pay as you go. Public cloud traffic can be kept down to a minimum and routed to your private portion of your cloud. And then if it blows up and you have a lot more traffic, it is easily scalable if the demand requires it, and then it'll also shrink back if the demand no longer requires a large amount of data or traffic. If a disaster or power outage temporarily disables your private cloud portion of the hybrid cloud, the public portion can pick up the slack. Disadvantages of a hybrid cloud: your data is still being maintained by a hosting company and under their control. Cost is minimized, but there is still a monthly bill that can vary from month to month, and it's a little difficult to understand the billing on some of these hosting services. Security: now there are two different entities that have their own security in place. That would be you and also the hosting company, and there's two different targets for attackers to gain access to your data. Here's a nice little illustration of public and private and hybrid clouds. Thought this would be a cute little thing to add on to here. You got public cloud in my private cloud, you got private cloud in my public cloud, then you end up with a hybrid cloud. And of course we get to the CIA that I said we were going to get to. That's the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of security. Confidentiality, that's what would be where you would want to keep like social security numbers, anything that's got to be private. You want to control access to that. Integrity, you want to maintain the integrity of your data. You don't want nobody to go in there and change it without you knowing it. And it has to be available for your use and for your customers' use. So this is a big portion of what you need to consider when you decide to go with public, private, or a hybrid cloud. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the presentation there. I had more things I wanted to go over with, but I kind of ran out of time. I was going to cover on different applications like software as a service, which would be like your Microsoft OneDrive, Google Docs, Google Apps, Dropbox. Those are all cloud-based applications that you would use, and instead of buying the program, you're paying for the service, and you get the program free along with it after you pay for the service, and it's kept on probably like Google servers or Microsoft or Azure is another one. And then you have infrastructure as a service, which is a service of the cloud where system administrators would have access to relocating computer resources, scaling, doing backups, and other various tasks. Platform as a service is a service that enables developers to develop, launch, run, maintain applications or programs. And that's about it. Let's see here. The site that I wanted you to know about, I didn't put on here yet. I have it on the next slide. And here's the last page of my works cited, and down here on the bottom you'll find the interesting video link. I'll also put that link on the video itself on the bottom of the video. And thank you for watching. Appreciate it.